I've got all the secrets to having happy succulents, and I'm going to share them with you so that you can stop killing your plants and instead have healthy looking succulents like me. These 10 tips are pretty foolproof and will help you become a master succulent grower. There's a common misconception among beginner succulent carers that they never need to be watered. No doubt they've been told that they are super easy to care for because they don't need much water and can be left to sit on a windowsill untouched for months. This neglect of your succulents can be seriously detrimental to the health of your plant. It is true that succulents require less water than aroids, such as philodendrons and alocasias, but they do still need water to grow properly. Succulents store water in their thick leaves and trunk, and if we don't water them for months at a time, the water depletes from the leaves and they begin to shrink and shrivel until they die and fall off. I keep my succulents on my west-facing windowsill in my bedroom so they get lots of afternoon sun, and I water them about every 2 or 3 weeks in the summer and probably every couple of months during the winter, which is probably more often than you might think. I always check the soil of the plant before watering by either using my finger or my trusty moisture meter. If they are moist, I leave it a week and then check again. You want the soil to dry out in between watering, but don't leave it too long as you'll start to see shrinking in the leaves of the plant. You might have heard that houseplants should be kept out of direct sun, otherwise their leaves will scorch. And this is sound advice for most houseplants, but not for succulents. Succulents are arid growing plants and naturally grow in desert-like conditions where they get lots of sun throughout the day. We should mimic this natural growth habit in our homes as much as possible. So that means giving them as much light as possible. If you have a south-facing window, then put your succulents in front of it to bask in the sun rays all day long. Doing this will mean that your succulents are more likely to flower, as opposed to keeping them in a dark corner of the room, and they're more likely to push out lots of new growth. I don't have any south-facing windows in my house, so I keep mine on my west-facing bedroom windowsill, and 2 of my echeverias have been producing lots of flowers this summer. Jade plants are a type of succulent and should be kept in full sun to get a really bushy plant. Don't be scared to prune your succulents. This is a key secret to having nice looking plants, not just succulents. Many beginners don't understand that they can cut down their succulents or don't know how to, and so end up with leggy and straggly looking plants. This might lead them to chucking out the plant because they don't like how it looks anymore. Succulents such as echeverias grow tall and eventually get leggy with a central stem coming out from the soil. To stop this in its tracks, all we need to do is cut the stalk and replant it in the soil for it to regrow roots. Succulents are surprisingly robust plants and will develop roots very easily after being cut off. They're also really easy to propagate just from the leaves. Got a couple of videos on both of these topics that I will link to in the description of this video. Succulents love light, and as they grow, they tend to face the direction of their natural light source. This can lead them to having uneven growth where one half of the plant is thicker than the other. Therefore, really important that we rotate our succulents every week or so to ensure even growth of the plant. If your plant is sitting on a windowsill, just rotate the plant 45 degrees every week and you'll have a nice looking plant with even growth. Lots of succulents, such as echeverias, have something called farina on their leaves. So what is farina, I hear you cry? Farina is the white powdery coating of wax you've probably noticed on the leaves of succulents like echeverias, and it plays an important role in keeping the succulent healthy. This coating protects the leaves from excessive water absorption because it is water repellent. Excessive water for the succulent will lead to mushy leaves and a generally unhappy plant. It is therefore important that we do not touch the leaves of our succulents to avoid this coating from rubbing off. Once we touch and mark the leaves of an echeveria, the damage is irreversible because the farina cannot grow back, so we are left with a mark on the leaf. Smudging or leaving our fingerprints on the leaves will be permanent, so the plant will look unsightly until that leaf falls off, which is not what anyone wants. This next tip is something that completely changed the health of my plants when I started doing it a couple of years ago, and it's something I talk about more in one of my videos on the channel, and that is to bottom water plants. This applies to succulents as much as it does for other houseplants. The main benefit here is that you can easily control the splashback of water on the plant. If you top water your succulents, then you are more likely to splash water onto the leaves of the plant, which can lead to excessive moisture problems, as I discussed earlier. Instead, you can lift your plant out of the decorative pot it lives in and add water to the pot and then put the plant back in. Your plant will then be able to wick up the water through the soil because of the drainage holes in the bottom of the plastic nursery pot. This wick action also ensures an even watering of the plant, with no dry patches in the soil that is more likely with top watering. This is much healthier for the plant. Check out my video for more details. To ensure you are successful with bottom watering, or even if you continue with top watering, you'll want to make sure your plant lives in a pot with drainage holes. Drainage holes for your succulent is vital to prevent overwatering of the plant and to protect those large leaves from taking up too much water and becoming mushy. If you pot your plant up into a pot without drainage holes, there is nowhere for excess water to go when you water your plant. This will lead to too much moisture in the soil and problems for your plant. I always keep my succulents in plastic nursery pots with drainage holes that then sit in decorative pots, and this allows me to control how much water the plant is taking up. Putting your succulents in the right soil is vital to having a healthy plant. Pretty much all succulents don't like to have wet feet, which means they don't like to be sat in soggy soil. If your plant is in wet soil all the time, this will lead to rot on the roots and excessive moisture in the thick leaves. Don't plant your succulents in just compost. Compost is too dense and retains too much water for your plant. Instead, keep your plant in a well-draining potting mix consisting of compost with perlite and optional bark for good drainage. Doing this will mean excess water can drain out of the soil and your succulent won't take up too much water. If you want succulents to grow quickly with fresh, new, lush growth, then fertilise your plants. Succulents need nitrogen for strong growth and potassium and phosphorus for strong root development and to help the plant fight off pests and disease and become a stronger plant. I fertilise my succulents once a month during the spring and summer, and I don't fertilise during the winter. Your plant is not actively growing in the winter, so does not need nutrients. I use a liquid fertiliser, and I make sure to follow the instructions for indoor plants on the packet by diluting the solution so as to not over fertilise my plants, which can lead to fertiliser root burn. I mentioned earlier that succulents do not like to have water splashed onto their leaves, and to prevent this we should try bottom watering. Equally important is to not have damp compost touching the leaves of the plant, as this can lead to mushy, rotting leaves. So to prevent this, a nice little hack is to apply a mulch on top of the soil of the plant. Mulch is just a layer of material that plant owners and gardeners add to the top of the soil for moisture retention and also for decorative purposes. Adding a layer of decorative gravel or stones on top of the soil of your plant will create a barrier between the leaves of the plant and the moist compost, protecting the leaves in the process. This layer of mulch will also improve the appearance of the plant too, which is no bad thing. Now that you have mastered succulents, you now need to watch this video here where I talk about 7 things plant experts do to their plants to get them looking so healthy that you probably don't. Thanks for watching.